Hi everyone, welcome back. Since I got such a good response from the first video, I'd figure I'd make another one. Quarantine can get really dull, so it's very important that we pick some hobbies that we can stick to and occupy our time. So here's a few more things that used to scare me when I was a kid. So just to restate, these are not going to be in any particular order, though I am counting up from 6, so let's get it started. Yeah, so the first one I'm going to talk about is actually from one of my favorite movies of all time that my family knows I used to love. It's actually from Space Jam. So the scene that actually used to freak me out was that really random scene where the Monstars actually turned Michael Jordan into a basketball. Mind you, it was mostly because it was garbage 90s CGI, but just that really awkward photo of him right in the front as he starts screaming and then they dribble him used to actually disturb me. Everything after that, I was pretty much okay with. I don't know why, but that specific thing used to just freak me out. Next is actually going to come from Pirates of the Caribbean, the second one, the Dead Man's Chest. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's actually the Kraken. The Kraken from this movie is actually what makes me sort of terrified of squids for some reason. I thought the movie just did a really good job of making a monster in this film, and it just, I really love the score and the music. But what got me when I was really young was there was a scene where Orlando Bloom's character is on a wrecked ship, and he finds dead crew members, but he flips this guy over, and his face is missing, but it makes no sense because it's just skin. So the insinuation is that a suction cup removed his face, and that just doesn't add up. But it was like a 2-second, I'm pretty sure that's a scene in the movie, but for some reason that really got me when I was younger, and now I don't like squids, and that's pretty much it. The other one is really funny to me because there's more of a funny story behind it, but this one is just in general the Child's Play franchise, which is just Chucky the doll. Chucky is just not scary. The concept of a killer doll is, but Chucky himself is not scary. And even the franchise knows this. Every single movie has gotten even more satirical than the last. But I remember this moment of being with my sisters when I was really young. She turned on the TV and it was Child's Play 3, which is the worst of the franchise. It's the only one that's not rated R. And I remember seeing it on TV. I got so scared that I jumped up in front of the TV, was crying in tears saying, "Change the channel, change the channel." Mind you, she's like, "Donnie, relax, stop. It's not even on right now." I turn around and it was just a commercial for Honey Baked Ham. She was flipping the channels, but I freaked out in that moment. And I was screaming, like I was vocalizing, and she was like, "I don't even understand." When I turned around, she busted out laughing. Alright, this next entry is actually from a little Disney classic, Halloween Town. So first things first, classic Disney Channel original movies, they're all garbage, like they really are. But I grew up on them, so they're really special to me. This is a completely harmless holiday family movie. It just features a family of witches who will go to this mystical town and shenanigans ensue. The part that got me as a kid was when they introduced this movie's villain, Calabar. The scene involved the mother and the grandmother going to a movie theater, and then he presents himself off the screen and he enchants them. It got me as a kid because the music was just going crazy and this man is wearing all this makeup and he's just kind of obviously on strings. And let me just say, this man is just very not threatening. But it was just a really fun scene as a kid, but I do remember this part giving me a little bit of goosebumps and then the rest just being a ton of fun. Can't miss it. If you haven't seen it, give it a try. Alright, so some fantastic 90s cheese. This next one comes from Deep Blue Sea. If you have not seen Deep Blue Sea, it is a 1999 horror, adventure, thriller, monster movie. This movie is just about a bunch of scientists who are stuck in an underwater facility trying to escape some 3 intelligent smart sharks. It's just as ridiculous as you think it is, and Sam Jackson is also in it. If you have not seen it, please give it a watch. So if you know this movie, you probably know what scene I'm talking about. But it is the death scene of Samuel L. Jackson. The scene involves Sam Jackson actually giving the crew this motivational speech where he's saying that they have to swim out to escape the sharks. In the middle of his speech, a shark literally jumps out the water, grabs him, and pulls him underwater. The scene when I first saw it was actually the first jump scare I had seen at the time. It was the first time I had experienced that, and it scared the crap out of me. My sister Christina, on the other hand, burst out laughing. I also love how this movie is clearly a fan of the original Jaws movies, so if you haven't seen it, a little bit of a spoiler, but all of the sharks in this movie die the same way all the different sharks from the Jaws series have. 2 explode, 1 gets electrocuted, so a little bit of an homage. Not to mention that the whole part of him dying is kind of a joke on the idea of characters giving motivational speeches. So, it being a funny scene, it's also just jabbing at movie writing in general. If you have not seen Deep Blue Sea, please give it a watch. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. I love this movie to death. This last entry is the one one that actually made me want to make an entire new video. It comes from Courage the Cowardly Dog. So Courage the Cowardly Dog is one of the most unique cartoons to ever be made. I love it. It's a classic of mine. It's something that was brought to light that featured really creepy imagery mixed with very unique drawings. And I just thought this was something that it almost had this borderline content that was a little bit too scary for kids, but we loved it. And I surely loved it growing up. And this is definitely one of the influences and why I like very strange media. Maybe things that aren't just so black and white. This episode makes the list for its infamous CGI depiction of King Ramses, which was actually groundbreaking at the time. Not a lot of shows that were 2D were incorporating CGI into them.
Return the slide.
Oh my God!
I do remember being really young, casually enjoying this episode until I saw King Ramses, which made my heart just sink. I remember after I saw him, I felt a really weird sensation on my hands. I looked over to see that it was a cockroach that crawled onto my hand. And I remember in one swift motion, I flicked my hand, turned off the TV, and ran upstairs. And it was a traumatizing moment in my life that I never really spoke about. Also, a little fun fact about watching things by myself. I had a similar ordeal when I actually was in the same house I watched that episode at. I was by myself watching TV. I saw Britney Spears' Oops, I Did It Again video for the first time. I was very young. And that's why I like blondes. Fun fact. Yeah, so that's the end of my list. Feel free to write in the comments things that used to scare you as a kid. If you have any suggestions, feel free to put them below. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful quarantine. Bye.